Hello, welcome back to Firesense Gaming. My name is Ben, and today we're going to continue on with Rizia. So, last time out, we went through our backstory, picked our initial policy goals, went to our coronation, and then had a family breakfast with our mother and daughter, and decided to let our daughter join us, in council meetings, kind of get her involved in politics a little bit. So, yeah, let's pick it up here. Let's see, we've got a couple of reports, a couple of newspapers, so let's just start the reports here. Alright, from Kalus, 1950 to be an exceptional wine year. The Contuavo family vineyard in Kalus has begun bottling its latest batch of Cavil, the first to follow last year's record harvest. They've named it Romus the Red and claim 1950 will go down in history as an exceptional year for Rizian wine. Cool. And from Port Jazon, House of Delegates holds first allegiance ceremony. For the occasion of the first Rizian coronation since the founding of the House of Delegates, Majority Leader Daria Durava called a special session where members took an oath of allegiance to the crown. Each parliamentarian was asked to stand and affirm his or her commitment to serve under King Romus's reign with dedication and integrity. And from Valenkier, Baron and Baroness of Valenkier reaffirm loyalty after absence. Security forces were dispatched to the estate of Lord and Lady Julio and Octavia Torres following their conspicuous absence from our coronation. In the past, the couple was suspected of spreading false rumors discrediting King Valero's claim to the throne. However, they testified that their absence was due to bout of food poisoning from improperly prepared shellfish and enthusiastically reaffirmed their fealty to King Romus and his family. Alright, that sounds a little weird, sending security forces to go talk to them, but whatever, that's okay. Let's see, it looks like all of them, yeah. Alright, we got two newspapers here. First up, from the Royal Herald, Coronation Party at Isa Palace marred by hooliganism. A post-coronation party held at the palace of Rico Torres, Duke of Isa, was unfortunately interrupted by a small group of hooligans waving signs chanting "End the Torres reign" at the gates. Aided by a number of civilian watchdogs from the Isa-based group Su Omina, police were able to swiftly disperse the troublemakers, many of whom appeared to be of foreign descent. When asked for comment, Duke Rica responded, "These criminals are guests in our country. If they want to live here, they've got to bend the knee to our king. It's as simple as that." Interesting, okay. And from Geopolitico, Arcasian armed forces advance in South China. Following its Costa campaign in West China, Arcasia has intensified its military operations in South China, aiming to dismantle millennialist-leaning regimes and promote democratic governance. This move comes as Arcasia faces growing resistance from Narashima and Shalina, where CSP influence is on the rise. The conflict has escalated, with Arcasian armed forces engaging in fierce battles against well-entrenched local forces. Back home, the Arcasian public grows increasingly concerned about the soaring military expenditures and slow-paced resource extraction, causing price fluctuations. Interesting, okay. Let's see, we got a codex update here from a family on Vina Torres. I'm guessing it's just her main entry there. Cool, alright. Alright. Well, I guess let's head to Port Jazon here for a political overview with the Grand Vezir. The stairway to the Royal Council Chambers was longer than I remembered. It took a moment to catch my breath in front of the carved oak doors. "Hurry up, Father. It's not very kingly of you to be late." Let's go with that. Seems like a good joke. A true king is never late. It's the others who are early. After collecting my thoughts, I pushed open the door and walked in. I'd only been here once or twice. I gazed up at the high domed ceiling with its skylight that shone down into the center of the room. Below it, a tall-backed red velvet chair towered over an oval mahogany table. To my slight surprise, the room was empty except for one man, my uncle. When Hugo saw me, he sprang to his feet. "Welcome, Your Majesty." "No need to stand on ceremony with me, Hugo. Please sit." Hugo sat down with a smile. "You'll meet everyone else soon enough, but I thought a private chat with your Grand Vizier would be in order first." His eyes traveled to the doorway, where Vina was still standing. Although it seems it won't be as private as I was expecting. Are you staying, Princess Vina? My daughter gave a shy nod. Yes, Uncle Hugo. I am sitting in on the King's Council meetings. It's unorthodox, I know, but future queens should have the same privileges as future kings. Hugo frowned as he processed this new information, then broke into a smile. By all means, then, Your Highness, have a seat. Vina walked over the table as I made my way to the red velvet chair. Once we were all seated, I turned to my uncle. How have you been? Busy. Managing the royal transition is a full-time job in itself. Between that and visits to Rico and Isa, I haven't had a day off since the funeral. As I listened to him, my eyes drifted towards the back wall. It was covered in portraits of Rizia's previous kings, including a newly painted likeness of my father. Ah, my dear brother, I do miss him, but I dare say it's time we had some fresh blood on the throne. As Valero never got a chance to fill you in on his royal duties before he passed, I prepared an overview for you. Would you like to hear it? Please. As the king, you're both Rizia's head of state and commander of its armed forces, as well as the de jure governor of Rizia Imperi, Valenkiris, the Pales administrative district, and the island of Kalkabiz. Just like your father and grandmother before you, you alone have the power to shape this country by passing royal decrees. As is tradition over hundreds of years, each new ruler has passed a sovereign transition and clemency decree to start their reign. The kingdom will be expecting your decree very soon. Let's see. Let's go with this one. Thanks for your advice, Uncle. It's comforting to have your wisdom and experience guiding me at the start of my reign. Your humility is appreciated, but remember, being king is about making hard decisions, not just following advice. Hugo reached for a neatly rolled parchment lying on the grand table. With deliberate movements, he unrolled it, revealing the prepared royal decree. The intricate script and the seal of Rizia glinted under the chandelier's light. I and the rest of the Royal Council will advise you to the best of our ability and put forth decrees and state decisions for your approval. Ultimately, the king has the final say. However, you should not neglect the House of Delegates, the legislative assembly my brother set up to appease the opposition after the uprising. Yes, that was one of his better ideas. I thought so as well. It gave Rizia the appearance of a constitutional democracy while keeping power firmly in the hands of the king. His Majesty Valera presided over the last elections in 1949. The Rizian National Coalition secured a House majority as always. They propose decrees and issue official approvals or disapprovals of the laws passed by you and the Council. Now, as Grand Vezir, it's traditional for me to attend the sessions and pass any relevant information on to you. Why can't I attend? I want to be in touch with my populace. The sessions can be quite long and tedious, Your Majesty. The King's time is better spent on other matters. With that said, I would advise you to take the delegates' input into account. No good can come of ignoring the will of the people. Let's see. Let's go with that one. Thank you for letting me know. I'll be sure to listen to them going forward. I'm here to serve, Your Majesty. Fortunately, the delegate speaker, Daria de Rava, is a Taurus royalist through and through. She should give you no trouble. The opposition is small, but worth keeping an eye on, especially the new leader, Manus Cezanne. Hugo scanned my face closely as he spoke the name. The traitor's son? Exactly. As you know, Duke Lucas Cezanne was executed for his role in your kidnapping in the 1926 uprising, where his wife Angelica was sent into exile on Kalakabiz. While she remains under strict orders not to leave the island, no such restrictions were placed on the son she gave birth to shortly after her arrival. He opened a folder and took out a picture of a clean-cut young man. Vina leaned forward to peer at it. Upon finishing his studies in Cairo, Manus returned to the mainland and proceeded to win the largest voter base of any opposition leader we've seen thus far. His promises to give a voice to the common man seem to be resonating with the populace. Parts of it, at least. common man. He's descended from nobility. Yes, that's what makes him particularly dangerous. Hugo closed the folder. While I'm on the subject, a word about our houses. House Taurus? Our family currently controls the province of Valenkirs as well as the city-state of Isa. How's Valenkirs doing now that I've left? Stable as always. With you on the throne, me as Grand Vezir, Enrico and Isa, the governing seat has been filled by Hubertus, a distant cousin of ours. Of course, Princess Vina is eligible to take his place as the reigning Duchess. He nodded at my daughter. In a few years, maybe. I still don't feel ready. You're already smarter than I was when I became Duke, but it's your decision. Vina blushed. Thank you, Father. Hugo tapped his fingers on the table. In any case, Your Majesty, I don't expect any trouble in Valenkirs during your reign. It remains the wealthiest of Rizia's provinces and the least affected by crime. Make sure their lives don't get any less comfortable, and the locals there will stay loyal to you. What's really going on in Isa? Has Rico been well received as Duke? Hugo's face hardened. Isa has been difficult since the Sazon Rebellion, even more so now that native Rizians are in danger of being crowded out by migrants. He spat out the last word with some distaste. Considering the circumstances, I believe my son is doing just fine. Is Suamin still based there? Yes, and I shudder to think of what Isa would be like without it. What about Rizia and Perry? We control that too, don't we? Yes, Portugal's on its metropolitan area, controlled by the central government and therefore House Taurus. You don't need to worry about pleasing our house in this region, though. It's more crucial to retain the favour of the major corporations that are based here. Understood. If our economy takes a hit, another uprising won't be far behind. Precisely. The Pale's Ministry of District is also under the jurisdiction of Rizia and Perry, since we won it back in the Reclamation War. Got it. That's all. Hugo nodded approvingly. As for the other houses... House Sazon? Yes, aside from Isa, which is now under Rico's governance, all of Brenas is still their territory. The nobles there swore fealty to the crown in exchange for keeping a hold on their cities and their estates. But the return of Angelica's boy could test that loyalty. He is a rightful duke after all, even if he does not admit it. He cannot be a duke and claim to represent democratic values at the same time. A contradiction, isn't it? He discourages his fellow delegates from using the title, but has yet to officially renounce it. As far as Angelica herself, she remains in exile, as she should. Let's go that. If Angelica is in exile and Manus has not laid claim to the duke position, who's officially in charge of Brainus now? Hugo checked his notes. A lesser relation by the name of Leona. She reigns from Salabs. Salabes? I don't know. But it is Manus and Angelica that the rest of the Sazons take their cues from. Lest we forget, Valen is scheduled to return Zia to Rizia next year. The Sazons expect the region to become part of their province, as it was before the uprising. I can maybe use that as a bargaining chip. Stay loyal to the crown or no zeal for House Sazon. Now you're thinking like a king. And finally, House Cesaro. Precisely, the rulers of Cardes Montclair and the stewards of the Rizian military. You must be aware of their patriarch Thaddeus' poor health. The general suffered a stroke just prior to King Valero's death. Yes, a shame I never got to know him. His daughter Lucita, the Duchess of Montclair, was selected to take his place as War and Security Councillor. You'll meet her later today. You should also know that factions within the province have begun calling for the return of Pales. Again. Pales hasn't been part of Rizia for over a century. It's a lost cause. No matter your feelings on the subject, I'd advise you to take the house's concerns seriously. Hugo glanced at the clock. Well, I hope that was helpful. One more thing. As you're aware, a few years before your father's death, he reinstated the Golden Guard. Right, the personal security of my father. And where are they now?
Here, sir. Ready and able.
For the first time, I noticed a man standing in the corner of the room. He's wearing a tight-fitting gold blazer that barely concealed his muscular physique.
Meet Titus Gordian, the captain of the Golden Guard. He and his men have been keeping close watch on you since the coronation.
Has he been in the room with us this whole time?
The Golden Guard only appears if and when he is needed, sir. Titus and his dozen men have been trained in the upper echelons of Rizia's elite military and police academies. Each has sworn an oath to protect the king and his family at all costs.
Well, what's with the costumes? Wouldn't plainclothes bodyguards be more effective?
It sends a signal that you are well protected, sir. My predecessors wore solid gold breastplates.
He bowed to Vina. She looked a little flustered. But didn't Queen Liza discontinue the Golden Guard because she thought they made the royals look elitist? Because... She trailed off.
Because she thought they were getting too powerful. It's why our current force is less than a third of the size it once was. Your father always had a fondness for the Rizia tradition, so he spared no expense bringing the guard back, albeit in a reduced form.
It humbles me to be worthy of such an elite unit's protection.
The humility is all mine, sir. Thank you, Titus. You may wait outside the chambers until the meeting's conclusion.
Titus nodded and swiftly left the room.
Noon already. Shall we and the young heiress break for a glass of wine before the council convenes this afternoon?
Gladly. We still have much to catch up on.
I think your father kept a store of vintage Contuavo in one of these cabinets.
Thank you for the invitation, Uncle Hugo. He turned to look my daughter in the eye.
What an intelligent and well-mannered young woman you've grown up to be, Your Highness. I know how overwhelming the capital can seem compared to Marquise. If you ever have questions, don't be afraid to come to me.
Vina smiled politely. It's very kind of you, Uncle Hugo. Yes, too kind.
Pardon my forwardness. I'm simply excited to have the family together again.
Vina finished jotting down some notes as Hugo went searching for the wine. Nice. Okay, so we've got a couple of decrees available. Not sure how those work just yet, but we'll figure that out in a minute. Let's take a look at the reports here first. So, from Havas, coal deposits suspected in Havas. Geologists in Havas have notified us about the potential presence of significant coal deposits, sparking interest for further exploration. To ascertain the extent and economic viability of these resources, comprehensive seismic and subsurface surveys must be commissioned. Cool. And from Nelvasar oil field on verge of depletion. Industry reports reveal that the Nelvasar oil field, once among Rizia's most prolific sites, is nearing the end of its productive life, with experts predicting significant output decline within the next year. The imminent depletion has prompted calls for increased investment in alternative energy sources and a reevaluation of Rizia's long-term energy strategy. And from Topes, unveiling the legacy of the Resonant Empire. In a groundbreaking development that has captured the kingdom of Rizia's imagination, archaeologists in the esteemed city of Topes have unearthed remnants of what appears to be a major city from the long-lost Resonant Empire. The extensive layout, marked by grandiose architecture and elaborate frescoes, suggests a significant center of commerce, governance, and culture, reflective of a bygone golden era of prosperity. Alright, that's kind of cool. So we have one newspaper article here from the Royal Herald. RRG CEO speaks out against proposed mining regulations. In a press conference given at the Rizian Royal Gold headquarters in Port Chazan, CEO Rosella Montoro spoke out against the mining safety regulations proposed by recently elected Morellan PM Alma Sultana. The regulations would affect the Meftium ITZ, the resource-rich region in which Rizia, Morella, Fogson, and Lesbia currently all own rights. Listen, I have nothing but respect for Madam Prime Minister over there, Mr. Montoro, who prefers the name Rusty, told reporters. But she's gotten too big for britches if she thinks she can tell our hardworking miners how to do their jobs. If our new king wants to earn his crown, he'll put her in her place. I don't know if I like this guy. Alright. Let's see. Let's look at these decrees here real quick. Let's see here. So we have the royal decree for the sovereign transition and clemency. By this royal decree, the kingdom solemnly affirms the transition of the crown within the Taurus lineage, from King Valero to King Romus. This decree upholds the revered traditions of the monarchy, ensuring the continuity and stability of the Taurus dynasty. Concurrent with this auspicious transition, King Romus, in his inaugural act of clemency, extends a royal pardon to 500 individuals convicted of minor offenses. Cool. I mean, I don't see any reason not to sign that one right now, so let's just do that. Coolio. Alright, and our authority went down 1. But I think we're still good. I think it was +3 before as well. Alright, and then let's see. We have an anti-narcotics campaign. Let's see. A comprehensive anti-narcotics campaign begins, intensifying efforts to eradicate the trafficking and distribution of illicit substances within Rizia. This initiative aims to significantly diminish the drug trade, reinforcing public safety and law enforcement efficiency. As law enforcement units engage in these operations, they will accrue crucial field experience, enhancing their capability to combat such illegal activities. This action underscores the state's firm commitment to upholding law and order and safeguarding the well-being of its citizens. Cool. I mean, it looks like it's being downvoted 3 to 2. So I'm just going to hold off on that. We'll see what happens. Let's just check out the other ones. I don't know if I want to sign anything yet until I talk to the council and see if they have any opinions on anything, but let's take a look anyway. So then we also have a Housing for the Poor initiative. A new ambitious housing program is dedicated to the kingdom's homeless and those grappling with extreme financial constraints. By guaranteeing housing for every citizen, the state reiterates its commitment to unity, prosperity, and social harmony. Such endeavors are anticipated to cement public trust and ensure tranquility across Rizia. So it's 2 to 2 with 1 abstaining. I'll probably come back and sign that, but like I said, I want to see if the council has anything to say on anything first. And then, excavation of Tope's ancient resident city. In homage to our ancestral heritage and to boost the tourism industry, the kingdom is launching an excavation and restoration project to resurrect the historical sites of Topes, a landmark of the ancient resident empire. With the city's excavation and restoration, we anticipate a renaissance of cultural pride, boosted tourism, and an uplift in public sentiment. Alright, well, let's see. I think we have more than enough to do this, so I think I'm just going to go and sign that one anyway. Yes, let's do that. Cool, and then yeah, I'll leave the other two for the moment. Let's see if the council has anything to say about any of this. But we got a newspaper article about that, so let's check it out. From the Royal Herald, Topes to be restored to former glory. In a new decree, King Romus has ordered the restoration of the ancient city of Topes back to its former glory. Topes was an important cultural hub in the Resident Empire, one of its great cities. Unfortunately, the centuries took their toll, and today it's largely in ruin and despair. The Crown announced that the historical center will be restored as once was, with no expenses spared. A team of Rizian and international experts in archaeology and restoration will lead the project, as Mercopa's brightest minds come together to unearth one of the brightest cities mankind has ever known. In addition to restoring the ancient city center, excavations of several historical sites surrounding Topes are planned. Once their mysteries have been revealed, these sites will be opened to the public in order to greatly boost historical and cultural tourism to the area. While this grand endeavor will take a while and will be costly, the palace promises that nothing can stand in the way of showing Rizia's great culture to the world. Soon all of Mercopa will make the journey to see what our forefathers were capable of. Cool. Alright. Well, I guess let's head back to Port Trazon here for an introductory briefing from the Royal Council. It was late afternoon when Vina and I headed back to the chambers for the first council meeting. The day was hot, and my head still felt slightly fuzzy from the wine we'd shared before lunch. I knew I was about to receive a lot of new information from my counselors. I hoped I could keep it all straight. As we crossed the palace gardens, I had the feeling I was being watched. Suddenly, I noticed a young man standing next to the path. His face matched the photograph Hugo had shown me that morning. Duke Sazon, I presume? He smiled nervously. I hold no land, Your Majesty, but you may use the title if you wish. So you're the man who had toppled the monarchy. His fingers almost unconsciously began loosening his tie. I don't know what you've heard, but I assure you that's not my aim. I wanted to introduce myself before our first official meeting. I may be the leader of the opposition, but I'm not your enemy. If you and I establish a dialogue, I believe we can work wonders for this country. Vina gave him an encouraging smile. How lovely of you to say that. I'm Vina Taurus, by the way. He resisted the urge to laugh. I know. A pleasure to make your acquaintance. I'm not uninterested in your proposition, but you'll have to request a formal audience with me like everyone else. I understand. Looking forward to it, Your Majesty. Your Highness? Vina waved as we walked away. He seems nice. Ugh, nice my foot. The man has all kinds of ulterior motives. We continued towards the council chambers. Oddly enough, I still felt like someone had their eyes on us. I looked back for just long enough to see a flash of gold. Titus. Of course. We entered the chambers where Hugo was already waiting for us. No sooner did we sat down than a brief rap came at the door. Without waiting for an answer, Lucida Azara rushed in. The new Warren Secretary Counselor was younger than I'd imagined. She carried herself with a mix of regal elegance and soldierly authority. Gentlemen, pardon my interruption. She bowed towards me. Please accept House Azara's formal congratulations on your coronation, Your Majesty. I motioned for her to stand. Her eye was fixated on my uncle's shirt as she raised herself. Hugo, Your Grace, your shirt's buttoned wrong. My uncle looked chastised. Oh, hello, Princess Vina. Your Majesty, may I ask what your daughter's doing here? She's here to receive tutelage from the best minds this kingdom has to offer, yours included. Ah, I'm flattered. She gave Vina a broad smile. Please don't mind me, Duchess Azara. I'm only here as an observer. Lucida's eyes darted to the door. The king instructs success is spending so much time in the same room. I hope the Golden Guard knows what's at stake in keeping these chambers secure. General Tadius sends his guards, or he would if he were capable of speaking full sentences. She was trying to be flippant, but I could sense emotion behind her words. This must be a difficult time for you. Let me know if there's anything I can do. The corners of her mouth twitched downward. I'm not supposed to tell Your Majesty. My ability to perform my duties is in no way compromised. The others should be right behind me. As if on cue, I heard the voices of Elena Werner and Lorenzo Escabel, my treasurer and the Counselor of Foreign Affairs. For God's sake, Lorenzo, you don't need to hold the door open for me every single time. I'm not as fragile as I look. I keep telling you, how could I allow a door to close on such a gorgeous face? As the two senior counselors stepped in, they immediately dropped their flirtatious routine and assumed a look of deference. Lorenzo smoothly removed his fedora, revealing a well-oiled mane of gray hair. Your Majesty, it is a pleasure and an honor to serve on your council. Elena nodded briskly. Despite her grandmotherly appearance, her demeanor was all business. Your reputation precedes you, Your Majesty. I've heard marvelous things about the work you did in Violent Cures. Thank you, Miss Werner and Mr. Escabel. I look forward to working with you. And work we will. We have so much ahead of us. Elena looked fondly at Vina. I'm pleased to see the young heiress here as well. A new Liza the Great in the making. Vina blushed. I wouldn't go that far, but I do hope you'll tell me about your time at Queen Liza's court one day. I'd love to. There are just a few updates I've got to share with your father first. Once all the councillors were seated, Hugo began. Thank you all for joining us. I'm pleased to have the entire council here for this first meeting. Well, not the entire council. The Grand Wiseman is in Plavo, preparing for the upcoming religious ceremony with His Majesty. But he needn't involve himself in earthly concerns like our royal treasury. He smiled to himself, then gestured to Elena. No, indeed, that's for me to worry about. She put on a pair of half-moon glasses and reached down into her purse, pulled out a thick leather-bound ledger, and flipped it open. Surely His Majesty already has some awareness regarding the state of Rizia's economy and resources. I do, but I'd like an update from you regardless. Certainly, Your Majesty. She smoothly adjusted her reading glasses before continuing.
Rizia has historically been one of the wealthiest countries in South Macopa, but His Majesty, the late King of Valero, bequeathed us a number of challenges in that department. Where should I start?
Well, how much tell us about our government budget?
It's healthy, Your Majesty. Since we began trading with Romberg, we've been running a surplus. It's not as high as it used to be, but I think we should put it to work. All glory to the late Valero, but he had certain prudence about spending government funds, even when doing so would have made Rizia richer in the long run.
Nonetheless, it's great to know that we're not going broke.
With that said, our budget would need more padding if we want to complete the state of military modernization measures I have in mind.
Elena pursed her lips.
With all due respect, Duchess Zara, I'm not sure the military is the king's number one focus.
No, it isn't. If we invest our surplus in Rizian industries, we'll get back what we spent triplefold.
Very good thinking, Your Majesty.
Ultimately, shouldn't that money be spent on the Rizian people? Think of the advances we were able to make during the Liza era due to the Queen's investments in citizen welfare. You'll recall their famous quotes.
True prosperity is not defined by the amount of gold in our coffers, but by the health and happiness of each soul within our borders.
More pragmatically, a happy and well-fed populace is one that does not rise up against its leaders. Hugo nodded.
I will point out that Rizia's wealth and my mother's judicious handling of it was one of the factors that allowed us to survive the century of revolutions. However, these were different times. As a modern nation in an era of increasing superpower influence, we are expected to have a certain standard of military.
If we cultivate our alliances well, we won't need that.
Allies can't turn on us, Your Majesty. A loyal, well-funded military is worth its weight in gold. Your enthusiasm is heartening, Duchess Cesaro. I'm sure you'll have much more advice to share during your own briefing. Any further questions, Your Majesty?
Sure, what's been going on with our gold industry?
Well, Your Majesty, gold is still the backbone of the Rizian economy, though production has declined as our reserves begin to exhaust themselves. We have a number of active mines through the country operated by the Rizian Royal Gold Corporation.
She and Hugo exchanged glances.
And unfortunately, we cannot talk about Rizian Royal Gold without talking about its CEO.
Why do we have to talk about him? It's Rizian Royal Gold, after all.
That's the problem. It isn't ours. Since 1935, it's been under the control of Rosella Montoro. Mr. Montoro, Rusty, currently owns 70% of Rizian Royal Gold.
I still can't believe he was allowed to gain such a large majority.
No cannot, Your Majesty.
He looked at Elena.
Rusty's first move after taking over the company was to sue your father's government for loss of revenue connected to the Zeal handover. After a very lengthy back and forth, it was agreed that the kingdom's share in RRG be decreased from 45 to 30%.
I won't tolerate this. I want Rizzi's original stake back.
Curry enough favour with Rusty, and it should be possible, but any more than 45% will be difficult.
Their patent for RRG's proprietary mining technology was filed in Venture City, Acacia, and most of its financial assets are kept in Kairoot.
In other words, attempting to nationalize a company without Mr. Montoro's express approval would strip it of its value.
She adjusted her glasses before continuing.
RRG may control mining within Rizia, but the royal government is a direct stakeholder in the Meftim International Trade Zone.
She unrolled a map on the table and pointed to a region east of Morella.
The double blow of losing our mines in Zeal and 15% of our RRG stake has made us quite reliant on the gold from the mints.
Rento stroked his mustache.
It was established shortly before you joined the Royal Council, was it not, Elena? I heard the negotiations between Rizia, Vox, and Lesbia Morella took over a year.
When we get Zeal back, will we get its gold back as well?
I certainly hope so. Vale has been mining extensively in the region since taking over in 1927. But, as per the terms of our agreement, Zeal and all the resources therein will return to Rizian ownership in 1952. At the time of our last survey, there was much more than 30 years' worth of gold in the ground there.
Can't we increase our mining efforts within Rizia to make up for the loss?
We can try. There are a number of promising sites that have yet to be explored. We would just need to give Rizian Royal Gold permission to begin excavations, which might involve the expropriation and destruction of noble property, depending on where the mines are located.
I saw Hugo wince to that remark. How much say does the government have over our operations in the midst?
A fair amount. Any changes to regulations or profit shares have to be agreed on by all four nations involved. RRG gets a percentage of the MIT's profits for the use of its technology, but we can make decisions without Mr. Montoro's input. That's it for our discussion on gold. Shall we move on?
Yes, let's talk about our energy holdings. Elena rubbed her hands together.
Very gladly, Your Majesty. I know this is your area of expertise, but there have been a few new developments.
She pointed at the map in front of her, this time directing our attention to the southern coast of Valankiris.
Although our state energy company is called Rizzian Oil and Gas, production of the former has slowed over the years and is starting to come to complete halt. The latter, however, shows immense potential. Our most productive gas field is Iskianis, off the coast of Topes. Assuming enough money is invested into its expansion, we can expect it to fuel our kingdom for years to come. Or we can spend our budget elsewhere as we wait for access to the new field south of Kalakavis.
Careful, Miss Verna. One should account one's pheasants before they've been bagged.
That's south of Kalakavis. Wouldn't that put the field close to Pales? Lorenzo gave me a significant look.
Exactly, Your Majesty. Miss Verna, tell him.
Well, we are still in the extremely early stages. But we may have at least part of a claim to a substantial reserve of natural gas between the port of Pales and the Rizzian island of Kalakavis.
We should proceed very carefully with this. We don't want a gas dispute on our hands.
Wise words, Your Majesty.
Our researchers have been investigating the field's size and importance. Once those are known, it will be easy to determine ownership.
Of course, we are liaising extremely closely with payers to avoid misunderstandings.
As we should. Nobody wants a repeat of the last conflict. I mean, if the Grand Duchy doesn't provoke us, we won't provoke them. Lucina nodded. As much as my family is clamoring for a repeat of the Pales campaign, I think it's best to ignore them. Of course, if Pales shows hostility towards us, we will react in kind, but Rizia should not be the first to resort to aggression. Vina tentatively raised her hand. I don't know why we're discussing military response. We'll surely be able to reach a compromise using proper diplomacy. You're right, Vina. Duchess Cesaro, save the military talk for your own briefing. Yeah, none of those answers were very good, but that's okay. Forgive me, Majesty. I thought you were asking for my input. Elena gently cut in. We should save this discussion for if and when we know more about the gas field in question. For now, are there any other questions? How much of our revenue comes from taxes? Historically, our resource-based economy has allowed us to have some of the lowest tax rates on the continent. It's been a real boon for businesses. 10%. The central government does collect a flat income tax of 10%. This is mostly paid by workers, since nobles have no income to speak of. That doesn't seem fair. Low-earning workers pay taxes while nobles don't. I didn't make the rules, Your Majesty. They are proposed by the House of Delegates and agreed on by your father.
A 10% tax is a low price for commoners to pay for the privilege of living and working in the best country in Makopa.
And our family's investments power half of Rizzi's businesses anyway. Why ask us to pay double? But nobles only got the money for those investments by siphoning from hard-working commoners. Isn't it our responsibility to break the cycle somehow? Hugo looked at me strangely.
It is our responsibility to make wise choices with the money we have. Dwelling on how we came to have it accomplishes nothing.
In terms of our province's individual contributions, The GDP in Valancourt is off the charts thanks to the wine, gas, and tourism industries. Buenos is still suffering the effects of the loss of Isa and Zeal. However, it's made advances in shipping and agriculture alongside its gold mines. The manufacturing concerns in Carly's Monticar are doing very well, to the point that business councils are complaining about an imminent shortage of skilled workers.
A shortage of Rizian workers, Elena. Those vacancies could easily be filled with migrants from Valen and Durgia. That is a slippery slope, Miss Escabel. Are you familiar with Rizia's tier employment system, Your Majesty?
I think I'm getting their voices all mixed up, but it's fine. I'll figure them out as I go. Please explain it to me.
After the Valen Civil War, we began granting labour hand visas to basic migrants and a small number of Durdians.
Labour hands may accept employment by Rizian industries, but they don't have the right to social security or other benefits, and there is a cap on how much they are allowed to earn. They now make up most of our blue-collar workforce, with higher-paid jobs held by native Rizians as well as a smaller number of lesbians, Voxalians, and Rumburgians.
Their program did wonders for the economy when King Valera initiated it, but as a result, we now have millions of workers in this country who are being treated like second-class citizens.
They should have the same working rights as Rizian counterparts, especially if they're paying taxes.
Rizia offered Vasics asylum where other countries did not. There must be some limit to our generosity.
Let's go with that one. Perhaps, but I do worry that having a growing army of disenfranchised laborers will lead to unrest down the line.
Very possibly, Your Majesty, and allowing migrants to earn more money will curb the kind of black market activities that have been taking place in cities like Isa.
Do you not fear the delusion of Rizian culture and values such as Cesaro, or the infiltration of dastardness and golkindness into a ruinous society?
She shrugged.
Society's changed, Your Grace, and I don't recall these concerns being raised about the Rumburgians moved here after our alliance.
Well put, Duchess. I can already tell you're going to be a brilliant addition to this council.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
I saw a smile play across her lips. Hugo stayed silent. Elena looked uneasily at the three of us. She tapped a pencil on the table.
We seem to have veered off track. Can we get back to your questions about the economy?
No, that's all the information I need for now.
Perfect, Your Majesty.
Elena glanced down at her notes, her expression contemplative.
I'd like to discuss several economic considerations. We should anticipate potential expenses arising from our impending fiscal policies.
Please elaborate.
The first point to consider is industrial growth. I am all for expanding production and construction, but we should make sure we have the energy to keep our facilities humming. Secondly, there is a matter of living standards. Improving the quality of life for our citizens naturally leads to higher administrative expenditures. Thirdly, if you do decide to listen to Duchess Cesaro and expand our defense capabilities, keep in mind that the cost of upkeep for armed forces will rise accordingly. Lastly, energy management poses its own challenges. As we approach the limits of our grid's capacity, we may incur additional storage costs.
This information is invaluable, Elena. I appreciate your insights.
Frankly, I am glad to see you taking such an interest in our financials. Between myself and the House of Delegates, we were able to keep everything running smoothly in the absence of clear guidance from your father. But with a king of your caliber at the helm, there's no telling how high we can soar.
Your hard work during my father's decline is to be commended.
Thank you. It was indeed quite a stressful time for everyone. I think that's enough for today, but we will have to come to a decision regarding the development of our resources. Gold is where most of our profits are coming from today, and it holds a special place in our history, but I maintain that natural gas will be a more fruitful investment. I'll let you think about it, Your Majesty.
Thank you, Miss Vanna. This was indeed enlightening. A pleasure to finally share these chambers with you, King Romus.
Yes, I'm looking forward to our upcoming security briefing. And congratulations on surviving your first council meeting, Your Highness. I found it fascinating, Your Grace.
They smiled at each other, not altogether sincerely. My counselors left. I sat for a few more minutes, reflecting on what Elena and the others had said. Fantastic. Wow, there's a crap load of new decrees available there. Handful of news articles. I don't see any reports, though. But either way, I think that's about as good a time as any to go on conference day. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see y'all next time.